what's of major concern to me is living in major metropolitan areas with the constant pollution. And I was reading a study that was talking about living in any major metropolitan area like New York City can take many years off of your life. Just from living there, it will shorten your life.
Yeah, I've been reading multiple studies over the years about air pollution, and there's compounds in air pollution that are carcinogens, like benzene, and there's also the particulate matter, and how these how air pollution is increasing the risk for stroke, heart attack, Alzheimer's disease. And this is like in dose-dependent manners, and of course there's all sorts of confounding factors, and you can never really show causality, although some animal studies have been showing causality. And some of these things are really bad in developing nations that don't have a lot of regulatory regulations on, for example, like automobile exhaust. And so some developing countries have like children coming down with like strokes and stuff like early, like young, teenage. So and this is of course been linked to air pollution. So it's definitely a concern. And then there's all sorts of studies talking about of course asthma, but happiness and brain function and all that. So, and it's something like I live off of a road, and then there's noise pollution, which is another. So it's like something that I've been like really, really aware of and trying to like move out away from busy, trafficky areas, particularly for my son, because I'm very concerned about the health risks.
Yeah, I wonder also the impact of just being in an urban environment and the fact that it's not really natural. And that maybe a person who's an adult could enjoy living in Manhattan and decide that they get a thrill out of living in the city. But for a baby to grow up around all that concrete and glass and all these sharp, hard edges and right angles, that it's maybe not conducive to healthy brain development, or that's not like what your body or your brain is naturally craving.
Right. There's been studies looking at, for example, like people that exercise in a metropolitan area versus like out in like a park, nature, and all sorts of measurements of depressive symptoms are measured after, and the ones that did nature run were far better at basically feeling happier after the run than the people that did in the metropolitan city.
That makes sense. I think that's why people like Central Park in New York City. It's
an oasis.
Yeah, you get something. It's really a great place. It's really quite big. One of the things about Central Park, when you're in it, you're like, wow, this is weird that this is in the middle of the city, but it's a brilliant move to have this one area. You think about how much that real estate would be worth if they decided just to shove buildings in there. Manhattan is one of the most pricey real estate places on the planet Earth, and yet in the middle of it, they have this big, open, public park area that anyone could just wander around, sit by a tree. It's really a very, very smart move.
Yeah, it is. It is nice.
LA should have something like that.
Is the air pollution? Do you know if the air pollution what's like in Manhattan?
It's terrible.
It's terrible in Manhattan too,
well,
compared to LA.
I think they're probably equally sucky. But the thing that is bothering me is not just the air pollution in terms of like the exhaust fumes and the exhaust and the smells, but also the brake dust. When I first started paying attention to brake dust, and I would always clean it off my wheels, but I would never think about it like, oh, there's dust that's on my wheels. I would think, oh, it's just dust on your wheels. And then someone was explaining to me, no, that's an environmental hazard that you're breathing in if you live in that environment. When you're around, if you're on Broadway and cars are constantly hitting their brakes around you, there's a puff of that brake dust that's getting in the air with every pump of the brakes.
Wow.
And you're just taking that disgusting stuff into your lungs.
Yeah, the particulate matter, the stuff that's really tiny and stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's like mesothelioma, right? You're taking in the particulate matter from like asbestos.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same, you'd think there'd be similar mechanisms, maybe not going to lead to mesothelioma, but that there would be similar mechanisms at play that are like, damaging organs.
Good to visit, not good to stay. That's what I think. I have no desire. I don't even like living here. I think there's too many people.